Hey, stop whatever you are doing right now, because what I am about to share with you could genuinely change the way you eat for the rest of your life. And I do not say that to be dramatic. I say that because I have spent decades in research and clinical medicine watching something quietly devastating happen to people over the age of 60, and almost nobody is talking about it. Not loudly enough, anyway. There is a silent epidemic happening inside the bodies of seniors right now, and the most alarming part is that the foods causing the most damage are sitting in nearly every kitchen in America. Foods that are marketed as healthy. Foods that your doctor has probably never warned you about. Foods you may have eaten this morning. I am Dr. William Lee, vascular biologist, physician, and author, and my research has been published in journals including the New England Journal of Medicine and The Lancet. I have worked directly with patients ranging from their early 60s to their late 80s, and one of the most consistent things I see time and again is people doing everything right in terms of what they have been told, and still watching their kidney function decline year after year. And when we look closely at their diets, the pattern becomes undeniable. So today I'm going to walk you through 5 common foods that are silently damaging your kidneys if you are over 60. We are counting down from number 5 to number 1, and number 1 is something I guarantee most of you consume on a regular basis without a second thought. Now, before we get into the countdown, I want to share something with you because this is the number that stopped me in my tracks when I first encountered it in the research. A study published by the Journal of the American Geriatric Society followed over 4,300 adults aged 65 and above over a period of 9 years. Researchers found that over 70% of participants showed measurable signs of early kidney function decline, and fewer than 12% of them had ever been told by their physician that their kidneys were under stress. That is not a rounding error. That is a systemic failure to communicate something critically important to one of the most vulnerable populations in medicine. And what made this finding even more alarming was that in nearly 60% of those cases, dietary patterns were identified as a primary contributing factor. Not genetics, not age alone, diet. That means this is something you have real power to change, starting today. But here's the thing I need you to hold on to before we dive into this list. That kidneys do not send you pain signals until the damage is quite advanced. They suffer silently. And that silence is exactly what makes this so urgent. Before we start counting down, I want to ask you something personally. How old are you right now? And have you ever had a full kidney function panel done? Meaning your GFR, your creatinine levels, your urine protein ratio? Leave your answer in the comments below. I read every single comment on this channel, and your answer genuinely helps me understand what topics to cover next. If you are new here and you care about protecting your health as you get older, please subscribe right now. Every week I share science-backed information that most people over 60 are never told, and I do not want you to miss it. Starting at number 5 on our countdown is processed deli meat. And yes, I know that sounds like something you have heard before, but what the research reveals about why deli meat is so specifically destructive for kidneys over 60 goes far beyond the usual sodium warning. Here is the problem. Most commercially produced deli meats, including turkey, ham, roast beef, and salami, are preserved with a compound called sodium nitrate. In a younger body, sodium nitrate is processed and cleared relatively efficiently. But a study published in the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology found that in adults over 65, the kidneys process sodium nitrate at a rate up to 40% slower than in younger adults. This means the compound accumulates in the bloodstream, placing a sustained filtration burden on the kidneys that younger people simply do not experience. Researchers at Johns Hopkins followed over 8,000 adults aged 60 and above for 7 years and found that those who consumed deli meats 5 or more times per week had a 31% higher incidence of declining kidney filtration rates compared to those who ate them fewer than once per week. And here is the aging-specific tragedy that makes this so urgent. By the time most people reach 65, they have already lost between 25 and 30% of their peak kidney filtering capacity simply through the natural aging process. That means the remaining capacity has to work harder, and anything you put into your body that increases the filtration demand is not just adding a small burden. It is pushing a system that is already operating with reduced reserves. Think of it like a water filtration system that was built to handle 100 gallons per hour, but now, after decades of use, can only reliably manage 65 gallons. Pouring in a substance that adds 10 extra gallons of work does not just slow things down slightly. It starts to overwhelm the system entirely. Moving to number 4 on our list, and this one is going to surprise you because it appears on nearly every superfood list you have ever seen. Number 4 is spinach. Now before you close this video, stay with me because the issue is not spinach itself. The issue is a compound in spinach called oxalate. And what oxalate does specifically inside a body over 60 is something the nutrition world almost never discusses. Spinach contains one of the highest concentrations of oxalic acid of any commonly consumed vegetable. In moderate amounts, a healthy kidney filters oxalate and excretes it in urine without significant difficulty. But researchers at the University of California, San Diego published findings in the journal Kidney International showing that in adults over 60 with even mildly reduced kidney function, which again includes the majority of people in that age group, oxalate clearance is reduced by up to 50%. When oxalate is not efficiently cleared, it binds with calcium in the bloodstream and begins forming microscopic crystals. These crystals accumulate in the kidney tissue itself, triggering what scientists describe as chronic oxalate nephropathy, a pattern of low-grade kidney tissue damage that unfolds silently over months and years. A large-scale analysis published in 2021, drawing from data across over 69,000 adults, found that seniors with the highest dietary oxalate intake had a statistically significant acceleration in kidney function decline compared to those with low oxalate diets, even after controlling for overall vegetable consumption. The solution here is not to eliminate spinach entirely. It is to be strategic about how you consume it. Cooking spinach reduces its oxalate content by up to 30% compared to raw spinach. Pairing it with calcium-rich foods at the same meal causes the oxalate to bind in the gut rather than the bloodstream, dramatically reducing the kidney load. And spreading your consumption out rather than eating large quantities at once allows your kidneys to manage the filtration far more effectively. Coming up at number 3, we are moving from your salad bowl to something that is hiding in almost every packaged food on your grocery store shelf. And this one operates in a way that most people would never suspect. Number 3 is phosphate additives, not natural phosphorus, which is found in whole foods, and is something your body manages well. I am talking about inorganic phosphate additives, which food manufacturers use as preservatives and flavor enhancers in products ranging from processed cheese to bottled salad dressings to flavored crackers and fast food chicken. Here's why this distinction matters so profoundly for people over 60. Natural phosphorus from whole food sources like beans, fish, and dairy is absorbed by the body at a rate of roughly 40 to 60%. Inorganic phosphate additives, by contrast, are absorbed at a rate of nearly 90 to 100%. That means your body receives an enormous phosphate load that it was never designed to handle at that concentration. A landmark study conducted by researchers at Brigham and Women's Hospital, affiliated with Harvard Medical School, followed over 22,000 adults across 12 years and found that individuals with the highest intake of inorganic phosphate additives had a 44% higher rate. of progression to chronic kidney disease compared to those with the lowest intake. But here's what makes this especially critical for people over 60. The kidneys regulate phosphate levels in the blood, and when phosphate levels are chronically elevated, the body responds by releasing a hormone called FGF23, which signals the kidneys to excrete more phosphate. In a young, healthy kidney, this works reasonably well. But research published in the Journal of the American Society of Nephrology found that in aging kidneys, chronically elevated FGF23 actually accelerates the very cellular damage the hormone is trying to compensate for. It becomes a vicious cycle. Think of it like a car engine that is running too hot, so the cooling system works harder, but the extra stress on the cooling system causes the engine to run even hotter. The way to identify inorganic phosphate additives on food labels is to look for ingredients that include the word phosphate. The calcium phosphate, sodium phosphate, disodium phosphate, these are all forms of inorganic phosphate that you want to minimize dramatically if you are over 60 and serious about protecting your kidney function long term. Before we get to the top two, which are where the research genuinely surprised even me, I want to pause and say something directly to you. If you have been watching this video and thinking, this is interesting, but I feel fine, my kidneys must be okay, I want you to understand something important. The kidneys are often called the silent organs for a reason. Unlike the heart, which gives you chest pain, or the stomach, which gives you nausea, or the joints, which give you aches and stiffness, the kidneys do not generate symptoms until their function has declined by 50% or more. That means millions of people right now, people who feel completely fine, are living with kidney function at 60 or 65% of normal capacity and have absolutely no idea. This is not meant to frighten you, it is meant to empower you. Because the foods on this list are avoidable, and the damage, especially in its earlier stages, can often be slowed significantly, and in some cases partially reversed with the right nutritional strategy. Now, number 2 on our countdown. This one is going to require me to ask you to challenge something you have probably believed your entire adult life. Number 2 is certain over-the-counter pain relievers, specifically ibuprofen and naproxen, 2 of the most commonly consumed medications on the planet. Now, I am not here to tell you that you can never use these medications. But what the research shows about their effect on aging kidneys, particularly with regular use, is something every person over 60 absolutely must understand. A class of medications called NSAIDs, which includes ibuprofen, naproxen, and similar drugs, work by blocking enzymes called COX-1 and COX-2. These enzymes play a role in inflammation, which is what makes NSAIDs effective for pain. But these same enzymes are critically involved in regulating blood flow to the kidneys. When you block them, you reduce the kidney's ability to maintain adequate circulation in its own tissue. In a young, healthy person with robust cardiovascular function, the kidneys can usually compensate. But researchers at the Cleveland Clinic conducted a study involving over 12,000 adults aged 65 and above, and found that those who used NSAIDs regularly, meaning 2 or more times per week, had a 58% higher risk of acute kidney injury episodes compared to non-users of the same age. And here is the detail that most people find shocking. The risk was dose-dependent, but not dramatically so. Even modest regular use, at standard over-the-counter doses, was associated with significantly elevated kidney stress markers in adults over 65. The aging kidneys simply do not have the same circulatory reserve to compensate for the reduction in blood flow that NSAIDs cause. Researchers from the University of Michigan published findings showing that adults over 70 who used NSAIDs regularly showed a measurable decline in their GFR, their glomerular filtration rate, within as little as 6 months of consistent use. Natural alternatives with meaningful research behind them include curcumin, omega-3 fatty acids, and ginger extract, all of which have demonstrated anti-inflammatory effects in published clinical trials, without the kidney circulation risk associated with NSAIDs. And now, we arrive at number 1. And I promised you this would surprise you, so I want you to stay with me through this entire explanation, because the mechanism here is one that even many physicians have never fully considered. Number 1 is high fructose containing beverages and foods, including fruit juices, sports drinks, sweetened teas, and processed foods containing high fructose corn syrup. And I want to be very precise here, because this is not simply about sugar in general. This is specifically about fructose, and a metabolic pathway that it triggers inside your body that has a direct and measurable destructive effect on kidney tissue. When fructose is metabolized, unlike glucose, it bypasses the normal regulatory checkpoints the body uses to control the production of a compound called uric acid. The more fructose you consume, the more uric acid your body produces. In a younger person with full kidney function, elevated uric acid is cleared relatively efficiently. But a study published in the American Journal of Kidney Diseases, following over 16,000 adults across an 8-year period, found that in adults over 60, elevated uric acid levels were associated with a 63% acceleration in kidney function decline. And here is the mechanism that makes this so insidious. Uric acid does not just burden the kidneys from the outside as a compound they must filter. It actually enters the cells of the kidney's inner tissue, the tubular epithelial cells, and triggers a process called oxidative stress from within. Researchers at Yale School of Medicine published findings showing that chronic fructose consumption in adults over 65 caused measurable inflammatory changes in kidney tissue architecture that were not seen in younger subjects consuming the same amounts. The kidneys of an older body are more vulnerable to fructose-driven uric acid accumulation in a way that is qualitatively different from what happens in younger physiology, not just a matter of degree. Think of it like rust forming inside a pipe. A brand new pipe can withstand a certain amount of moisture without significant damage. But a pipe that already has years of wear on its inner surface, small microabrasions and thinning walls, rusts far faster when exposed to the same conditions, and the damage spreads more quickly and more deeply. A follow-up analysis published in the journal Hypertension found that simply reducing fructose intake by 30% in adults over 65, without making any other dietary changes, resulted in a statistically significant reduction in serum uric acid levels within just 8 weeks in A. Measurable improvement in urine protein markers, which are a key indicator of kidney filtration integrity. So let me bring this together for you before I close today, because I do not want to leave you with just a list of foods to fear. I want to leave you with a clear, actionable framework. The 5 foods and substances that the research identifies as most damaging to kidneys in adults over 60 are, in descending order of impact, high fructose beverages and processed foods containing high fructose corn syrup, regular use of NSAID pain relievers, foods containing inorganic phosphate, additives, raw spinach, and other high oxalate foods consumed in large quantities without proper preparation, and processed deli meats preserved with sodium nitrate. The through line connecting all 5 of these is that the aging kidney operates with a reduced filtration reserve, and each of these items places a specific measurable burden on that reserve that compounds over time without generating any symptoms until the damage is already advanced. The good news, and I want you to genuinely hold on to this, is that the kidneys have remarkable regenerative capacity in their earlier stages of stress. Studies from the National Institute on Aging have shown that adults over 60 who make targeted dietary changes can slow kidney function decline by up to 40% compared to those who make no changes. That is not a minor difference. That is potentially decades of healthy, functioning kidney life. And you do not need a prescription. You do not need a specialist referral. You need the right information. And you have just received it. Now I want to ask you something before you go. Which of these 5 surprised you most? Was it the spinach, the phosphate additives, Or was number 1 what finally made you pause? Tell me in the comments, and tell me your age as well, because I tailor my content specifically to where you are in life. If this video gave you something you did not have before, please share it with someone you care about. A parent, a spouse, a friend over 60 who deserves to know this. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do it right now. Every week, I release research-backed content specifically designed for people who are serious about protecting their health as they age. Information that most doctors simply do not have time to share in a 15-minute clinical visit. You deserve to have this information. And I will be here every week to make sure you get it.